Inspiration Vineyards and Winery, Kendrick Vineyards, Elaine Wines, Sojourn Cellars, Vampire Vineyards, Bella Grace Vineyards, Vino Noceto, Hawk and Horse Vineyards, Sanguis, Halo Vineyards. These are just a handful of wineries who will be attending Family Winemakers of California's tasting event on August 13th in Oakland. They'll offer a private code that you can use to save $25 off the ticket price. Before I get into those details, you'll hear about the remarkable lengths the Family Winemakers of California employ to promote their member wineries. Let's hit the road.
But part of our work as an advocacy agency is educating our members on these types of issues and how to rectify that with their own personal stock and inventory.
My guest on this podcast is Jessica Venezia, the Director of Administration and Marketing for Family Winemakers of California. We'll get into what they do and the tasting event that's coming up after I thank my sponsor, Sonoma Clean Power. For my local listeners, learn how your actions can make a greater impact with clean, renewable energy at poweringeverydaymoments.org. That's poweringeverydaymoments.org. Now, on to the charming Jessica Venezia. Not only does Family Winemakers of California hold events to highlight and support their member wineries, the organization also lobbies for legislative action on behalf of the wine industry, focusing on the smaller production facilities.
Yes, that would be correct, Jeff. Our business is unique in the sense that we have two different areas that we focus on. We have our legislative advocacy that we use in all small winemakers. We've been doing this for 32 years on behalf of the wine industry, and we represent the perspective of the small production. We are unique as an organization because unlike other associations, we accept a 1720 license, which allows custom crush facilities and private labels to engage in our lobbying efforts, and we are the only association that actually promotes their perspective. Our lobbying firm is composed of 4 women, and they represent large players such as Home Depot, Starbucks. The list goes on and on. When you go in their office, it's beautiful. They have a great team in downtown Sacramento, and every year when we go through the list of bills and regulations, we consistently meet with them with our legislative committee, and we decide which bills we're going to oppose and which we are going to potentially wait and see how the amendments come, and then we will also decide which ones that we're going to advocate for. Through that process, we relay that information to our members, and sometimes we gain insight, sometimes we poll our members to decide if there is a questionable, whether it benefits our production facilities or it doesn't. But we have lots of years in the legislation history, and we can take some credit for some of the largest bills that have come into the wine industry.
So by bills, you mean legislative bills that have been passed?
Yes. One of our largest claims to fame in the wine industry is that Jess Jackson, who was our initial founding proprietor, allowed and helped facilitate Family Winemakers of California to lead the charge in getting the direct-to-consumer shipping legislation passed at the federal level.
Outside of California?
Outside of California, and it basically paved the way to allow all wineries to be able to use shipping methods to promote their wine labels.
That's huge.
It was huge. It was back in 1990s. You know, it was definitely before my time and my legal drinking age. I'm 40 years old. But I have all the legislation in my garage right now. And we are going to be passing it on to Kendall Jackson for their historical records. So we've already talked to them.
And if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head, there's like 46 states across the country now allow wine to be shipped into their state. It makes it a lot easier for wineries to sell their product outside of California.
And there's always work to be done. I think any person who is in the alcohol industry understands that some of the rules are arbitrary or don't seem to be consistent, and that's part of our continual job. The thing is that everyone in the wine industry benefits from our work at the legislative level. However, we do need to fund that work, and so that is the reason why we have an association. The association dues go directly to help advocate for small businesses.
Yeah, and a lot of these arbitrary rules are left over from Prohibition and post-Prohibition. So they're that old.
Those rules don't work well, and we have consistent policy. We have a large bottle bill policy, which is affecting everyone. It's through Recycle of California right now, that any person who's producing wine in the state of California is going to have to change their labeling. And how that's going to be rolled out in 2025 is a really large bureaucratic issue.
Yeah, what an undertaking.
The bottle bill was introduced this year, and it is a specific way that wineries have to label their individual bottles, and it's a certain type of typeface, and it can't have a monetary value established on it. So unlike other states where you'll see, Missouri or Michigan has a 5-cent label on it as far as what the value is when you turn it in, the bottle bill is forcing wine bottles to now introduce that kind of labeling to their wine bottles. And so some of the bigger issues with that is these companies that have 50, 60, hundreds of thousands of cases of wine already ready for labeling or for future shipping. How do you amend that? Right. How do you go back and change those labels without it being a costly factor for any person, really? So there's two different solutions that have been proposed, but part of our work as an advocacy agency is educating our members on these types of issues and how to rectify that with their own personal stock and inventory.
Yeah, and this is when you appreciate being a small family-run winery. And I wasn't expecting all that information. That's crazy.
Oh, sorry!
So as you intimated earlier, a lot of your clients don't have a brick-and-mortar establishment to sell their wine or the land to grow grapes, so you're helping those smaller entities get noticed and get their wines out there.
We help market their wines. We help them with the regulations surrounding that. We often get questions from our members, can I do this? What about this? I have a brand new label that's coming to our tasting. It's two moms. They've just decided to put their heads together and create some wine, and they love it, but they're so new to the industry, and it can be a jarring experience dealing with the regulations of how to get your product actually on the shelf in a way that doesn't compromise the integrity of your business practices and the cost of the wine.
It might lead to the decision of saying, let's just be home winemakers and not sell our wines. We'll just give it away.
Absolutely. But that's how so many people start out in the industry. And at this point, with the cost of land in California, many people want to enter the industry. They just don't have the means. There isn't enough soil available. And the cost of doing and starting up a vineyard from scratch, if you didn't have a grandfathered piece of lot or property, is almost a barrier to the industry. So this is a way for people to get access to more product, get their passion out there, and then build up a proof of concept before they might be able to decide to then purchase land or a pre-established winery.
Jessica Venezia will touch upon their upcoming tasting event, which I plan to attend after this short message from Sonoma Clean Power.
Our lives are built on moments, the morning routines and weekend road trips. As your public power provider, we at Sonoma Clean Power thrive on sustaining everyday moments, and we do so with a clean energy future in mind. We know these moments are cherished forever. Together, we can protect today's moments and those yet to come. Learn how your actions can make an even greater impact at poweringeverydaymoments.org.
Welcome back to On the Wine Road podcast. As I mentioned earlier, another way Family Winemakers of California supports their wineries is with events. And they have a tasting event coming up on August 13th in Oakland at Block 15. The event focuses on smaller, less than 5,000 case producers, and some even as small as 1,500 cases or fewer. I asked Jessica if this was the first event since the pandemic.
No. So we, like everyone, we had to shut down our events during the pandemic, and then coming back out of COVID has been, I think, an interesting reset. And so we've had 2 successful tastings, and that was where we were able to sort of honor the agreements we already made with some of our old members to come in and pour. This is one where we're really starting from kind of scratch again. And we recently did a tasting in Del Mar in March, and that was really successful. We've expanded and changed our format over the years. Our history is 32 years of wine events, and we used to have our large wine events at Fort Mason in San Francisco. The feedback over the years was that it had gotten too big, and so we started contracting the event down and down and down because a lot of our smaller producers didn't feel that it had the same advantage as being placed next to maybe the larger production facilities or ones that had been picked up by much larger corporate interests. And so now we've really nailed and funneled our way into a much more intimate setting. So Block 15 is in Oakland. It's near Jack London District. It has ample parking, very safe.
Great.
It's well lit. We have a great security team that mans all around the doors. It's a bi-level facility, so there's a nice area, the mezzanine level, to kind of take a break from tasting, to reset your format. And then on the ground floor, we'll have 60 different wineries pouring their beautiful wines.
Looks like a nice building.
It's a beautiful facility. It's small, it's intimate. We're also reducing the amount of just general sponsorships, and we're really focusing on building that relationship between trade and winemaker. So that's why we've introduced for the very first time 2 hours of only trade, therefore allowing for those relationships to be made.
Yeah, that's an important relationship for the wineries, to hook up with the trade personnel so they can get endorsed through that revenue stream.
Yes, I've had, just in the last week, I've had 2 winery new labels reach out to us. There's a restaurant in called Table Vine in Sacramento downtown that's been sending people our direction. I actually need to reach out and thank them because it's through their advocacy and knowledge of our organization that's helping give small labels a better chance at marketing. As soon as these small labels who have no idea of our 30-year history in the industry hear about us and they hear about our work and how we can present their wines and offer them opportunity, they tend to sign up immediately.
That's great. What are the times for the trade industry experience and the consumer experiences?
So we will allow trade-in beginning at 11 a.m. in the morning and going until 1 in the afternoon. And then we don't have a VIP experience this time. All consumers will be let in from 1 to 4.
Great. And you said 60 wineries will be on hand?
60 wineries will be on hand. We have some unique experiences. We've diversified from our traditional tasting methods, and we have a couple fun tables coming in that are going to be highlighting some distinct varietals. And we see that happening as our tastings continue, where we invite certain demographics and associations to come and pour wine specific from that region.
Excellent. And you're going to have a special code for discounts?
Absolutely.
One for the trade, and you're going to give a code for my listeners too.
I will give your code for your listeners. So if anyone in the trade industry would like to attend the tasting, I need them to reach out to me directly. I'm not going to give that $10 ticket away to just anyone, but they can reach out to me at jessica@familywinemakersorg. Otherwise, any of your listeners, Jeff, we have created a special code for them for 25% off. The consumer tasting ticket is $100, and the code is OTWR25. So it's all capital OTWR25, and that stands for 25% off the $100 ticket.
That's a
so
great
it'll be
savings.
amazing.
Dropping it down to 75 from 100.
And another opportunity, and this is really unique too, is the Type 81 license. So unlike other wine tasting events, we have wineries who are going to be able to sell their wine directly to you. So if you like one of those small production facilities and it's a rosé and they only have 4 cases left, you will be able to secure that bottle at the time of that tasting and take it with you for enjoyment later in the evening or for later that week, not have to wait for it to be shipped from you.
That is a great addition, because you never see that at tasting events.
And it's great for the trade in case they need to sit there and they want to take 2 bottles back to someone else who might be a better decision maker, or they want to consult with someone on which 2 bottles they would prefer to present or to have or to take into their collection. It gives them the opportunity to buy those 2 single bottles as opposed to having to wait for that.
Another benefit for your members is you recently joined forces with Wine Routes, which is a web and app-based guide that connects wine lovers with wineries and provides specific details about what they offer that may appeal to consumers who are planning a day of wine tasting, whether they're dog-friendly or allow families and kids. And now they offer wine sales from some of their winery members. And I can see how that relationship with wine routes can help your winery members.
Jeff, when Adrian and I met at a wine event recently, we immediately could see the benefit for both of our organizations. Wine Routes has a fixed cost for setting up any large winery, and it's nominal when you consider what marketing is in this day and age. Mm-hmm. However, for those smaller production facilities, they might not be able to afford what some of these larger, higher production facilities can afford. I mean, it's a numbers game. So the benefit is that if you join Family Winemakers of California, regardless of your production size, you're going to receive about $1,000 off of their annual price.
Wow.
And so it ends up being about $700 because our association fees are $300 a year for less than 5,000 case producers, which is extremely affordable. And then you get to save $700 or $1,000 off of them. So depending on how you look at that or how you frame the savings, it's a win-win for both. And a lot of the times, our smaller production facilities do actually have tasting opportunities. We are signing a new contract with one beautiful winery over in the Russian River Valley, and they offer tasting by appointment only, but they do absolutely zero advertising. Uh-huh. And so our benefit is that we get to send our amazing consumers to this beautiful winery, and vice versa. It's a symbiotic relationship.
Is that winery to remain nameless?
It hasn't been signed yet, so I can't technically say, but they've agreed, and we are super excited to have them. It's remarkable wines. Adrian and I tasted there after the Growers Barbecue. And so.
Excellent. The way the Family Winemakers of California supports your member producers seems similar to what the Wine Institute Advocacy Group in California does. Yet you're focusing on some of the smaller wineries. The larger ones are more involved with the Wine Institute.
The Wine Institute does deal, you're correct, with the larger companies, and Kendall Jackson also supports them as well. I think that having both associations in the wine industry, there's over 5,400 wineries across the state of California, and I can't imagine that we, even collectively, have hit any percentage of that at this point. So we can both together support the wine industry from both sides of the business and both perspectives.
And I think it makes sense to have them separated, the larger and the smaller.
Absolutely. They don't accept 1720 licenses, I don't believe, at this point. And so, and maybe that will change. We do accept large wineries. We accept all sizes. We'll have a few 10,000 case or more producers. And we have a couple very large producers that also support our organization. But that doesn't mean that the smaller label doesn't need representation as well.
How many wineries do you have as members at this point?
We have about, I think, between 150 to 200. That's been the magic question. Our dues aren't necessarily year to year, so it kind of depends on what cycle we are in the year. So that number can go up 1 month and can go down 1 month depending on when someone's renewal date is.
Interesting. And what's the criteria to be a member? Do they have to be a family-owned winery?
So in order to usually pour our tastings, we do only allow Family Winemaker members, associate members to pour. We are, if you're less than 1,500 cases, we have an agreement that we can make a slightly different deal for that, because we really want to support brand new labels that just don't have the production up. They don't have their vintages and they don't have their inventory levels up yet. However, for the most part, you have to be a member of our association, and association dues are based on case production. So if you are between 6 cents per case above 5,000 cases up to a certain level, and then it goes up in there in a tiered pricing structure format.
And do you take wineries that produce 5,000 cases and more?
Yes, Kendall Jackson is one of our members as well. Yeah. So they obviously are more than 5,000 cases.
But they're certainly a family winery.
They absolutely are. Yeah. They're an amazing group to work with.
So is Gallo.
Yes, Gallo. I believe Gallo is a member of the Wine Institute. So
Well, I have to say I'm honored that you reached out to me to spread the word about the important work that you're doing on behalf of those who don't have a loud enough voice to do so on their own.
Oh, thank you so much, Jeff. I really appreciate your willingness to speak to us and to start a conversation. I think that every individual, no matter where you are in the wine industry at this time, coming out of COVID, transitioning into the newer generations, it's an important role to be an advocate for everyone in the wine industry.
For tickets to the wine tasting event on August 13th in Oakland, they should look up Family Winemakers of California.org.
Family Winemakers of California.org. We also have, if you search on Eventbrite, you'll be able to see our Oakland tasting. It's featured on there. We have been running Facebook ads. We'll start running those more. We haven't really been advocating yet for our consumer sales because we've been giving a lot of our tickets to trade. So there is only a select amount of consumers that can purchase tickets, and we are excited to sell out.
You can help them sell out by visiting FamilyWinemakers.org. Click the Consumers button, then Get Tickets. Don't forget to enter the code Jessica mentioned earlier, OTWR25. OTWR, as in on the wine road, then 25 to save $25 off the ticket price. I'm attending with some friends, and I hope you find it as a not-to-miss event as well. And if you're a fledgling winery looking for support that can help you grow, click the Join button on their website and get the benefits Family Winemakers of California can provide to your winemaking endeavor. Thanks to Jessica Venezia for sharing her time with me. That wraps up this venture on the wine road. Today's episode was written, recorded, and produced by me. Please subscribe to On the Wine Road podcast so each episode will automatically appear on your favorite platform. And I appreciate a positive review if that's an option. Find images, wine news, trivia, and more interviews at onthewineroad.us. I'm on Facebook as On the Wine Road and Instagram as JD Wine Road. I'll talk to you again soon as I share more from my travels on the wine road. I'm Jeff Davis,